thinking about restoring your hardwood floor, but you want to do it cheaply, with the cost of living being absolutely ridiculous at the moment, we completely understand that you might not want to get your floor restored by a professional, but maybe some advice from a professional would go a long way with this, because just going in blindly is probably not the best idea.
Yeah.
So Pierre, as you are, well, welcome to Pierre, as you are the expert in, well, you're more of an expert than I am for definite. I know nothing about this. How can they go about?
I would just like to step back and correct you there. You've been doing blogs and writing articles. Well, I think you know a lot more about it than you want to give away. But yes, let's quickly address how can somebody restore or make their floor look better without spending the huge amount on the restoration job. So let's have a quick look at how we get to this place where we are. Floor's been down, and you know what, it's been used and the chairs has moved and it starts to look a little bit
you might have just moved into the house and it's just
it's true. And what we're talking about is a floor that just looks a little bit tired. So in a case where a floor looks tired, and it's very important that you check that the floor finish that's applied, the lacquer, is not totally worn out in places. How you can test that is if you mop the floor and in places it goes quite dark, where in other places it stays light, especially the place where the chair moves in and out. What that would indicate is that that area of finish is totally worn away, right? So if you mop the floor in that area where the very busy walkway is in front of the kitchen, wash-up sink, the chair that's used most in the kitchen, if that area is mopped with a damp mop and that area goes darker than the rest, then the only way to protect that floor properly is to get it sanded and refinished.
So you'd have to sand the whole floor back.
You would need to sand the whole floor back to refinish it. Now, there are certain things you can try and use to buy yourself a little bit more time. But I would say if your floor is of the nature that you think, heck, you know what, I really want to keep this oak floor, or this is a beautiful maple floor, I really want to keep it, then it's best to consider having proper restoration done. Now, if it is that you think, heck, you know what, let's see what we can do to protect it. So then I would consider a care product that would be applied after the floor's been cleaned. But there are limitations and they might not look perfect, but it can create a little bit of protection to the floor. What I'm thinking of, and always do a test on the floor, is Palman's Magic Oil Care on an oiled floor. So if the floor's been oiled before, you can apply a little bit of Magic Oil Care to the floor. That protects the floor a little bit. And Tracy, maybe you can cut in a picture of the product and a link to the product. The alternative, if the floor's been lacquered, then you can use Finish Care. That's a care product that goes onto lacquered floors. You also get a product called Finish Care Stop. Finish Care Stop is more used for something where you want to reduce the slippiness on the floor. That's been lacquered. So if it's an oiled floor, Magic Oil Care. If it's a lacquered floor, then Finish Care or Finish Care Stop. Now this is not going to be perfect, and several coats would probably be needed. So what I would do is clean the floor thoroughly, get some of this Finish Care if it's a lacquered floor, and apply it to those worst areas that gets darker a bit. Apply 2-3 coats to that area, and then a coat or two over the whole floor. Similar with Magic Oil Care. That's what I would do there. Now, let's go to a place where the floor is looking a little tired. It's got some scuff marks on it, maybe the odd scratch, but nothing severe. The floor still looks good. You think, heck, you know what, I just want to make this floor look better, and I don't want it to get too bad. Now, that's a place where we can actually come in and key the floor back. This means we clean the floor. We create a mechanical key where we use a very fine sandpaper. We go over the floor, not removing the finish,
not
but
taking it off,
just level it out and give it a place where the new finish would adhere to the floor. And then we can apply a fresh coat of lacquer to the floor. And that freshens it up really nicely, and buys you a lot more time. So in that case, it's a recoat rather than a
proper sand.
Now, if it's an oiled floor, in many cases, an oiled floor, you can re-oil the floor by doing a similar thing to what I explained. You key it back and you apply a fresh coat of oil. What happens over a long period of time, the floor becomes less even. So, we've had one in a church. Actually, we we had to redo the floor. This was a community project that we did for Chesterton.
Oh,
St George's Church in Chesterton. You can maybe link the
I'll
video
link the
to
video
this.
and the blog to it. Yeah.
So they called us in because we sanded this floor several years ago. We oiled this floor. And at first I said to Linda at the time, she has now left, I said to Linda, we can come in and probably just key it back and put a fresh coat of oil down. But what we then discovered was, because it was so long since we did it and also piney soft, in places the floor has become a little bit uneven because, you know, weight has been put on it, traffic lanes has created it. So when you put your machine over this, the keying back is not as even, so you cannot really, in that case you would need to sand the floor. So it's better to apply Finish Care product, Magical Care rather, on an oiled floor. Magical Care to this floor, because that just freshens it up. But in this case with St George's Church, it was quite worn, so we had to re-sand the floor. So that's what I would say. Really, two things really. You can go and accept that the floor's in a bad way. I'll apply Finish Care Stop or Magical Care to it and eventually get it sanded, or if my budget allows, get it sanded and restored straight away. Alternatively, if the floor's just worn a little bit and I want to freshen up, a recoat of lacquer or otherwise a recoat of oil.
I mean, I think personally, I haven't looked into it, but I would think that if you were to do the restoration yourself, the hiring of the machines, once you've added up everything that you would have to pay for yourself to get the restoration done, I personally saw it as you don't have the knowledge like what the professionals do, so you can do it yourself. There's plenty of blogs that I've written that will help you do that. I'll link them down below, but if you don't know what you're doing, the knowledge that these people come with is far greater than what you'll find on Google or what you'll even find in my blogs. So there are points where you have to go, it might be cheaper to do it myself, but is it going to be cheaper in the long run? Because if you do that floor and you mess it up...
Yeah, and that has happened.
And that's happened. We've had a few
We've seen clients call us up and say, hey, can you come and redo it? Because
you just look at this picture. The picture that I've just put up, it's a husband tried to do a test patch, a localised patch, and it looked absolutely awful. Not that, I mean, he tried. I'll give him his due. You can try. But just be aware that you might try yourself and then have to call the professionals anyway. If you want some advice, Art of Clean are happy to help.
I also have
most professionals will be happy to help.
I have, and I'm sure you've done the same. There's several blog posts on how to do floors yourself.
Yes,
and there are people out there that has got the experience and have done it before. They would like to get the pride of, you know what, I've done that before. No, it's not perfect, but I'm proud of what I've achieved. So that's also certainly possible, but don't go into it thinking it's easy.
It's easy. It's not easy. No, that was what I'm getting at. You can do it yourself, but just don't think that it's going to be an easy fix. Because restoring a floor, knowing what grit size to use from the start to the finish, it's not just one grit size, as I didn't realise. So all of these things do come into play when you're doing it. So just think about that in the long run. And if you need anything else, or you've got any other questions about wood floors, please let us know in the comments. We would happily help you. So speak to you soon. Have a good day. Bye.